All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're talking about a piece of tech that did more than just create a new app. No, this thing completely rewired the financial nervous system of the world's most populous country. This is the incredible story of India's Unified Payments Interface, or as everyone knows it, UPI.
200 billion. Just let that number sink in for a second. That's the mind-boggling number of transactions UPI is projected to handle every single year. We're talking about a scale that's almost impossible to wrap your head around, you know? It moves money for everything from a tiny cup of street chai to massive business deals.
And really, that brings us to the biggest question of all. How in the world did one single system, in just a few short years, convince over 1 billion people in a country that ran on cash to totally change how they think about money? It's a wild story. Let's break it down.
So, to really get why UPI was such a big deal, you have to understand what things are like before. And honestly, it was kind of a mess. Digital payments in India were a total patchwork of confusing, frustrating systems.
I mean, just look at this contrast. It says it all. Before UPI, on the left, every single bank had its own clunky app that didn't talk to the others. If you wanted to send money, you needed the person's full name, their long account number, and this complicated 11-digit IFSC code. And even after all of that, the money might take hours to show up. So of course, cash was king. It was just easier. But then comes UPI on the right. Suddenly, any app works with any bank. All you need is a super simple address, and the transfers happen instantly, day or night. It just completely flipped the script.
So, what's the magic trick here? How does this thing actually work? Well, the genius of it is that it's actually incredibly simple, at least for the user.
Okay, so the official definition sounds a bit technical, but the core idea, the real game changer, is that thing called the virtual payment address, or VPA. The best way to think about it is like an email address, but for your money. Instead of giving out all your sensitive, complicated bank details, you just give someone your VPA, like your name at your bank. It's this simple, memorable layer that sits on top of all the complex banking stuff and makes it all just work.
And for you, the user, it becomes ridiculously easy. It's just 4 steps. You open your favorite app, doesn't matter which one, scan a QR code or type in that simple VPA, you punch in the amount, you authorize it with your secret PIN, and boom, done. The money zips straight from your bank account to theirs, instantly. No digital wallets to top up, no waiting. It's as close to frictionless as it gets.
No, understanding how it works is one thing, but the story of why it grew so fast, well, that's where things get really interesting. It wasn't just that the tech was good. It was a perfect storm of timing, policy, and design.
This timeline really tells the whole story. So UPI launches pretty quietly in April 2016. But then, just 7 months later, a bombshell. The Indian government's demonetization policy suddenly pulled 86% of the country's cash out of circulation overnight. All of a sudden, everybody, and I mean everybody, desperately needed a digital way to pay for things, and UPI was right there, ready to go. After that, it was just rocket fuel. UPI 2.0 added more features. Later versions expanded what you could do, and by 2025, it was hitting over 20 billion transactions in a single month. Incredible.
But here's the twist. All that insane growth wasn't spread out evenly. It actually led to this massive market concentration. By late 2025, just 2 companies, PhonePe and Google Pay, were handling over 80% of all the transactions. That is a wild level of dominance in a system that was built to be open, and that's a really important point we're going to come back to.
But look, this was never just about making payments easier. UPI became this powerful engine for social and economic change, and now it's actually becoming one of India's most important global exports.
The ripple effects, or the UPI effect, have just been massive. It brought millions of people into the formal banking system for the very first time, pushing India's financial inclusion to a record high. Think about the small businesses, the backbone of the economy. They suddenly got paid instantly, which completely changed their cash flow. The whole economy became a little more official, a little less cash-based. And now, you've got countries all over the world, like Brazil with its PIX system, basically looking at UPI and saying, yeah, we want that.
85%. Think about that. By 2025, UPI wasn't just another way to pay digitally, it was the way. It was handling 85% of all retail digital payments in the entire country. That is total, unbelievable dominance.
But you know how the saying goes. With that kind of scale, with that much power concentrated in one place, you open yourself up to a whole different kind of risk. Because when you put an entire nation's economy on one single set of digital rails, even a tiny crack can cause a huge earthquake.
So, for the last part here, let's take an honest look at the other side of this amazing success story. Let's talk about the risks, the challenges, and the cracks that are starting to show.
And one of the most obvious ones is fraud. Now, to be clear, the fraud rate is still super low, like less than 0.01%. The system itself is very secure. But because the volume is so massive, the raw number of fraud cases is shooting up, nearly doubling in a single year. And most of this isn't hackers breaking the system, it's con artists tricking people into approving payments themselves.
And the worries go even deeper. You've got massive systemic risk. We've actually seen national-scale outages that have basically stopped commerce in its tracks for a while. There's the digital divide. What about the people who don't have a smartphone or live where the internet is spotty? They get left behind. Then you have huge questions about privacy. Who's watching all this data? And remember that market concentration? When two companies control 80% of the system, you have to worry about whether that kills competition down the line.
And this really gets to the heart of it, right? The whole world is looking at what India has built. Is this the blueprint for the future that everyone should copy? Or is it a warning sign? Which leaves us with the big final question. Has India truly created the blueprint for the future of money, a model of amazing efficiency and financial inclusion? Or is it possible that by betting its entire retail economy on a single system, it's actually playing a high-stakes gamble, where the true risks are still yet to come?